Hello, this is Father Son 49ers Talk. I'm Paul,
And I'm Wyatt.
and it has been a long time since we've had a podcast. We've actually done several, probably a handful of podcasts that we didn't get out. We've had just some technical issues and then just other things, getting busy and not getting the podcast edited because of some of our technical issues. But yeah, so we're kind of set up with the new system and we're ready to go. And today we are going to talk 49ers free agency, specifically the defense. But before we get into that, how have you been, Wyatt?
Good. How about you?
Doing pretty good. You guys have had all that snow up there, right?
We haven't had a week of school that's been normal since, I guess we haven't had one this year.
Yeah, right this year, yeah.
Days canceled, left, right, center. We've missed like 11 days.
Yeah, I mean, it's been,
like,
yeah, it's been, so Wyatt's up in Iowa, and we've had that big snowstorm, big winter storm come through up in that area, Iowa, Minnesota, all those northern states, and he's just been hit really hard by that.
Fun.
Yeah, it has been fun. But anyways, we're going to get into, like we said, some free agency. We're specifically going to talk defense. So, Wyatt, how do you feel about the 49ers defense after this year?
After this year in particular, I can't put trust in it. I mean,
so why can't you trust it?
Just when it came down to it, personally, I mean, I have my opinion on why, but we couldn't get pass rush. We couldn't get pressure on the quarterback. And with our cover 3 scheme, if you can't get pressure on the quarterback, even below average quarterbacks are just going to sit there and tear you up.
Yeah, the cornerbacks can only cover a professional wide receiver for so long before somebody's just going to get open. And what you're saying is if we can't put that pressure on them and we can't force the quarterback to throw the ball earlier, then our cornerback performance is going to suffer.
Yeah. And there's some schemes that you don't have to have that amazing pass rush. But just it seems that in our scheme, you need pass rush.
Yeah, you definitely need pass rush. That's kind of the overall setup of the scheme. When the Seahawks did it, it definitely is a critical element to our defense. So with that being said, well, for me, I definitely think that after this year, we've taken a step down in and how I view our defense. And really where it gets at is the whole situation where playing position, we have players playing out of position, like Solomon Thomas. It took us forever to realize that Solomon Thomas wasn't an outside pressure. Like he can't go out there and play that, right? He's a good player if you put him in the middle and you let him play his game, but he's not that explosive pass rusher. And we just kept on trying and trying and trying, and it became frustrating to watch. You also look at the talent that we brought in to the 49ers for the defense, and it just largely has not worked out. And you really have to question our scouting department as far as defense, and then even the play calling. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Do you think that we should have fired our defensive coordinator?
I mean, I don't really know. Because when it comes down to it, you can't play chess without chess pieces.
Yeah, I like that. I'm of the opinion, give Robert Saleh another chance for another year. But if it doesn't work out this year, I think that we probably move on from him at defensive coordinator.
And let Robert Saleh get some pieces on that defense. Let him get what he needs. You can't, like I said, you can't play chess without chess pieces. If you don't have the talent that you need on a defense, no matter what the play calls you put out, they aren't going to turn out because of, you don't have pressure on the quarterback. If you don't have a center fielder, as they call it, like a good center fielder to cover up some of the mistakes when it comes to zone coverage. There's just stuff that the Niners didn't have that are needed for our defense.
Like pass rush.
That's the biggest one. That is the biggest.
Yeah, from the outside.
Yeah. Yeah, from the outside looking in.
Yeah, because we don't have the outside pass rush, but we definitely had inside pressure this year.
Yeah, we had inside pressure coming from Buckner, and yeah.
Yeah, DeForest Buckner, he had a really good season for an inside defensive lineman, which was pretty good. Now, you imagine if we get an outside guy to kind of come in. So we both kind of feel like our confidence in the defense has really, as a whole, going clear from the scouting to the coaching to even the players, has kind of diminished. It could be a down year, and it could be, hopefully this next year we'll be able to turn it around and kind of move forward, which is what we're hoping to do.
Mm-hmm.
But so we've established that. So we're going to talk specifically free agency. What positions do you think that we should address in free agency, and in what order do you think we need to address them?
Well, in my opinion, what should we address in free agency? I would like to see an edge rusher come in, like a good edge rusher, not just a guy that you put out there. I want a good edge rusher to come in, a guy like Trey Flowers. I really like Trey Flowers if he were to come in, and he's my favorite to hit the 49ers out of this offseason. Trey Flowers is my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe if a guy like DeMarcus Lawrence came into free agency, not going to say that it's going to happen. I don't think it will.
Okay.
But if he came in, I'd like to see him. Even a guy like Brandon Graham from the Eagles. If he came in, I mean, there's pass rush. I like him too. And then there's a couple other guys like Jadeveon Clowney, possibly. I think he's going to get the franchise tag. Same as DeMarcus Lawrence. I don't know if DeMarcus Lawrence wants to be there in Dallas. They franchise tagged him 1 year. I don't know. I've heard some stuff going on there, but he'll get franchise tagged.
Mm-hmm.
D Ford's an interesting prospect.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we'll go into those individual players here in just a minute. So you said the pass rush. What other positions do you think we should look at?
I'd like to see a center fielder, so like a free safety.
Okay, so free safety, pass rush, free safety,
a linebacker,
linebacker.
I'd like to see inside linebacker, a guy like. Okay, I'll get to that later, I guess.
And then,
I'd like to see a corner.
Yep, a corner. Okay, so then what order do you think that we should address those?
In my opinion, I think it goes edge rusher, safety, and then there's a toss-up whether we should go corner or linebacker. Because I'm not sure about you, but I still believe in Ahkello Witherspoon. I mean, he also was playing on injury.
I'll go with that. I'll tell you this. So we have different priorities for the offense. We have the same positions, of course, which is like the whole defense, except for basically interior linemen. That's like the one position we don't need to address, right? Yeah. So let's just say we'll wrap it up. We need to address every position. Yeah. The order of significance. I really think that pass rush needs to come first. We have to bring in a pass rush guy. And then for me, it's corner. It's cornerback. And so we can talk about that just a second. You were talking about Ahkello Witherspoon, and you said you still believe in him. And you know what? I still believe in Ahkello Witherspoon. I really honestly do. What I would like to see is for us to bring in an experienced veteran cornerback that is good. I'm not looking for a superstar. I'm looking for somebody who can perform at an NFL level on an average defense. We're looking for an average performance. And if we bring two of those guys in, even just one, what that does is that creates competition. And you know what? We're going to have to pay him a little bit of money. But if we bring in a guy that can play football, he's good. He's a good NFL player. And then Ahkello Witherspoon beats him out. That's awesome. That's a win-win. That's a win-win for us and for Ahkello Witherspoon, and even for the other cornerback that we brought in to the 49ers. I don't want to go out and pick up the hottest cornerback free agent. That's not what I want. I want us to go out and find solid cornerbacks that we can put on our roster that could be average starters on other teams.
For example, I mean, just trying to throw a guy out there that, I mean, immediately when you start talking on what you're looking for, immediately comes to head for me. Kareem Jackson of the Houston Texans.
Yeah, Kareem Jackson. Okay.
He's going to be free agency. Or in free agency. A couple more guys that I have down here, but they're more the top end corners for this free agency. I don't know if I really like both of them. I don't know. I just don't know if I like both of them. Fits for the Niners particularly. Bradley Roby and Ronald Darby. Maybe one of those guys, something.
Okay, yeah. Why do you like those guys?
I just like them. I mean, the pure what you're talking about. They're experienced, not old, but experienced. They have experience in the NFL, and they have proven that they can play in the NFL.
The one guy that I kind of have my eyes on that I would really like to see us bring in is Morris Claiborne.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the guy that I kind of have my eyes on. And if we could bring Morris Claiborne in with maybe another one of the guys kind of, mid-tier, I would feel really good about that. And then we can allow Ahkello Witherspoon to play out and do what he needs to do. The guy has the intangibles, and he has plays. Ahkello Witherspoon, he will have plays that just wow you. He can do what we need him to do, what the coaches envisioned him doing when we drafted him. He just doesn't do it consistently. And that's what we need from him. We just need him to do it consistently.
Yeah. And so my thinking is when I put edge rush and then free safety, the reason I have free safety at 2 is in our scheme, our zone heavy scheme. I mean, it's pretty common that having a good free safety, like center fielder, a guy like Earl Thomas, maybe, just guys come off the top of my head. I've looked a lot into Nasir Adderley. That'll come with the draft if we do one on the draft or when we do one on the draft. Who prospects we like in the draft? Nasir Adderley, he's won college. A guy like that, bring in, that helps our scheme. Like in our scheme, that helps the corners.
Yeah, absolutely. And like a guy like Earl Thomas would be amazing to have on the team. And hopefully we can get him. Unfortunately, I just read that he registered his kids for school in, was it Dallas?
Houston. Already looked into it.
Houston.
I also did some research on this.
Okay, go ahead.
If he wanted to go to Dallas, why? Why move to Houston? Or I don't know if it's Houston. That doesn't sound right.
It doesn't, no. But somewhere in Texas. He's registered his kids in Texas.
It's 3 hours away from Dallas. I know that for a fact.
Okay.
It's closer to
Houston's about there, but yeah.
Yeah. So maybe, I don't know. It's somewhere. It's 3 hours away from Dallas. And the only reason I know it's not Houston is because it's closer to Houston than it is Dallas.
Okay. I mean, that's fine. So you said you were doing research about it. So why would he register 3 hours away?
I mean, it comes down to it. It's a good school. Like he's enrolling him into a good school, like high-end school with all the best stuff that you expect. So is it a thing he's looking for the best for his kids? I'm thinking it's more of like a Robbie Gould thing. He moved his family and everything to Chicago.
Well, Robbie Gould, he played for Chicago, and he just didn't move his family with him.
Yeah.
You remember that? So he played for Chicago, and then he had that really bad year, and then he got released. And that's one of the things that we need to look out for is because Chicago's not done well with kicking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're not going to do a kicker episode, but Robbie Gould, is a really good player for us, and he's been one of our more consistent players. But he's free agent. The Bears are looking for a kicker, and his family lives in Chicago. They did not want to move to San Francisco, which means that his family during the season lives in Chicago, and he comes to San Francisco. So he is dislocated from his family during the season. Would he go back to Chicago if they offered him a contract? I don't know. That's a good question.
I sure hope not. That's the answer.
Yeah, food for thought, right?
Yeah. No.
Okay, so we got a safety. Earl Thomas. We definitely need to address free safety as well. That is safety in general. We just need to strengthen that secondary. I will say this: the reason why I like. So you're saying that the safety does the coordination for the secondary and strengthens the position group in general.
Yeah, I feel like you put a good free safety there in the middle. It's going to strengthen the defensive backcourt overall.
Okay, and I'm going off of PFF positional value ratings, and they actually, what the most valuable defensive position they have rated in the entire defense?
In my opinion, it'd be edge rusher, but
yeah, well, PFF's opinion, it's cornerback. Statistically, they have shown that cornerback is a more valuable position to the defense than a edge rush. Now, that is also to say that edge rush provides the value for the cornerback, but because of reducing the amount of time they have to cover essentially the wide receivers and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
However, for me, it is definitely going to be edge rush and cornerback that we need to address. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And safety. We do need to bring a safety in. I mean, we need a veteran in all of those positions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
And then go
now
ahead.
that I think I put corner in front of linebacker. I do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty clear that cornerback's going to go in front of linebacker. We have some pretty decent linebackers. I mean, with Fred Warner, that's a good. Okay, so let's talk about the linebacker core. So what are we thinking about the linebacker core, Wyatt?
I like one guy out of our linebackers. I like Fred Warner, and that's that.
That's
Like,
that.
yeah, for like long term, like him, or not even long term, but like for the upcoming season, guy that I mean, he'll be starting in my opinion. Most people's, but I like Fred Warner, and that's the guy I like there. Other than that, I'm not that big of a fan of really anyone on the roster.
Well, yeah, you got Fred Warner, Malcolm Smith. I really am not feeling Malcolm Smith, right?
Not feeling it.
Um, Elijah Lee, he played pretty well. I mean, he's a good depth piece. We don't want him to be the starter for sure. I mean, we don't want him to be out there every single day, but he didn't play bad. But yeah, we definitely need to have another linebacker. But again, this gets into the PFF ratings, and they give it or take. I mean, we're 49ers fans, so 49ers fans typically we kind of have a love affair with linebackers. When we had Patrick Willis and then Navarro Bowman and the two together, right? And we always dream of having another pairing like that, and that's kind of what we were hoping with before. But of course, with Reuben Foster, that didn't work out for us. So I don't know. I think that we definitely, again, we're going to have to bring in somebody. I don't think this is as high as a priority, though. This isn't like we're not going to bring in a day 1 or 2 free agency guy to come in to our linebacker core. We're going to be looking more at, the week 2 kind of guy, somebody that can come in, not Malcolm Smith. He needs to. I kind of feel a little bit bad talking about. Here recently, I've felt a little bit bad talking about these people have families. They have families, and they're professionals. They're out there doing their job. They kind of why don't get too close to your mic. You breathe in like that, and I can hear it really bad. But yeah, so you hear that kind of stuff, and it kind of makes me feel a little bit bad. So understand that I know these people have families and they have jobs. And Malcolm Smith, he was a decent linebacker at some point in his career, but it isn't even whether or not he can play for us. It's that he hasn't played for us. He's been injured so much.
Yeah, it's not that I'm not when I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the guy as like a person or anything like that. I'm just talking about him and what he does on the field.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
And I'm not leaving anything but that.
But he hasn't been on the field for a large part of his time with us, and that's kind of the problem. And to be honest, he really wasn't that good when he played with the Raiders. That was one of those questionable kind of free agency acquisitions that we brought in. We paid him a lot of money to come in and play linebacker for us, and a lot of people in the NFL said, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings into question John Lynch. And we'll get more into depth. We'll talk more about the coaching staff and John Lynch and stuff like that. I definitely don't think they need to be on the hot seat right now. But I will say that John Lynch has something to prove this year. Kyle Shanahan is safe. I don't think Kyle Shanahan is in danger of being fired at all this year. If we go winless, maybe. That's like extreme circumstances. But I don't think Shanahan's going to lose his job. If we lose, I think the person that is in the hot seat this year is John Lynch. He's the one who's been bringing in the talent that hasn't panned out.
Yeah, I agree.
So we'll see. And I really like John Lynch. I really, really like John Lynch, and I like his personality. I like the reports of the culture that he has with the team, that he's built with the team, and him and Shanahan. So I feel pretty good about that. Anyways, is there any other positions or any other players? Oh yeah, so let's get into some of the players. Okay, so we've talked about it a little bit. We talked about you mentioned some names about the defensive linemen, right? The edge rushers. So let's start talking about them. Tell me a little bit about the edge rushers. Which ones do you like and why?
Guys that I like, I'll go by guys that I think will actually hit free agency. I mean, Demarcus Lawrence, I like him, but I don't think he'll hit free agency, and no one does. Brandon Graham, same thing. Jadeveon Clowney, same deal. So I
Okay.
like them because they're good pass rushers, get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They have a little bit of different play or game. I mean, Jadeveon Clowney plays different than Demarcus Lawrence. Brandon Graham kind of plays his own game. But Trey Flowers, I think he'll hit. And I like Trey Flowers because of the ability. He has kind of a unique ability. I mean, he has an amazing bull rush. You'll see him put a lot of pressure onto the quarterback, just blow through tackles, offensive tackles. And you'll see him do that consistently. But then he has the athleticism to go around the outside and get that edge bend that you need. I mean, he's just kind of a complete player, has experience, and has proven that he can play on the NFL level and get pass rush.
Okay. Yeah, so Brandon Graham. Well, hold on.
Trey Flowers.
We're talking about Trey Flowers. I'm sorry. You mentioned Brandon Graham earlier, and I was thinking about him as well. So Trey Flowers, I like that. So then what about Brandon Graham? Because I know that was another one that you had mentioned.
Brandon Graham, I like Brandon Graham. And he consistently gets pressure from the edge rush from edge. But his isn't really going around the outside. His is going through people. Going through people, using good pass rush moves. That's kind of how Brandon Graham does it. Not so much using athleticism, but using power, technique, something like that.
So does it matter how he does it if he gets there?
No, not so much.
Okay. So I like Brandon Graham too.
To an extent. I don't know. No, not really.
I mean, I'm sure there's differences, but I mean, for us, we're just looking at a guy who can be on the outside, and then come in and put pressure and
can get
actually,
pressure. Yeah, as long as he gets pressure.
yeah, and can hit the quarterback.
Yeah. As long as he can, wrap up the quarterback and make sure he touches the turf or grass, we're good.
Yeah, with the ball.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, preferably he knocks the ball out.
Yeah, that'd be good too. I like that.
Yeah, if he could do that, because our defense had troubles doing that as well. Getting turnovers.
Oh my goodness, that was absolutely ridiculous. That was so frustrating.
That was pathetic.
It was.
Two interceptions.
This year was it was kind of a weird year. It was fun to watch, but at the same time, it was just so frustrating. And it was all about expectations.
Yeah. We had high expectations coming into the year.
Yeah, exactly. We had high expectations coming into the year. So we thought that we were going to be we talked about it. I mean, at the beginning of the season, I said that it's going to be probably 8 to 10 wins. I thought that we were going to go into the 10 range, but I said, I think it's 8 to 10, give or take 2. So 8 is the baseline, give or take 2 wins. So the variance range I was really given was more like 6 to 10, which is kind of a weird variance, but I thought we were really more of an 8-8 team. And whether or not we won the close games or lost them was going to determine whether or not we went to the 10 wins or we went to the 6 wins. Well, we didn't win close games, really. We were in a bunch of them, but we didn't win them. Mm-hmm. And so this last year was definitely worse than what we wanted. But, with those expectations, it just was bad.
Yeah, just thinking of one right off the top of my head, that was a close game that we ended up losing. The Packers, and close to the beginning of the year, Rodgers had some Rodgers magic and came back and won it on us in the final drive. That was a close game. Came down to Rodgers, got the ball in his hands, and Rodgers does what Rodgers does.
Yeah. Yeah, it was frustrating, to watch stuff like that happen for sure.
Yeah, he just like ate up our defense. Just went.
I mean, coming into this year, we were expecting Jimmy G to kind of continue to light the world up. We did expect him to come down a little bit. You can't sustain elite play like he did for those 5 games in the year before consistently over an entire season. So, come down to earth a little bit, but still perform like Jimmy Garoppolo. But that didn't happen, of course, right? So when he got hurt, that was so frustrating. It started before the season started. It started with Jerick McKinnon.
Mm-hmm.
And it just never ended. And then with Matt Breida, even with Matt Breida, every time I saw him run, it was so exciting and thrilling to watch him run. But every time I was like, every time he got hit, I was like, oh my goodness, did he just roll that ankle? I was always, how many times did he fall down on the turf after a hit and just lay there and then get back up, go to the sidelines, and come back in? It happened like half the games.
Mm-hmm. It's like, wait, a fly hit him. Oh boy. Is he okay?
Yeah, and then the defense just couldn't make stops. The defense was kind of a weird defense. They were a Jekyll and Hyde. They would have really good games where they were playing well, and then they would have 2 or 3 plays where they just completely blew it in the secondary, really, where they would lose coverage and then massive giant touchdowns. And that's why we were losing those close games, is because we would just occasionally have a lapse in coverage, either mental errors or scheme errors or whatever it may be. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a coach, but I can see when you get burnt and you have an 80-yard touchdown pass. I can see
you don't
that.
have to be an expert to watch Christian Kirk go. Was that 80 yards or something?
Remember that? Long one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, I think that was Witherspoon, first play of the game or something. Just Kirk on a post route and doesn't stop.
So overall, you think what type of, I guess the way I would say it is like threat condition, but we're not talking military stuff. How aggressive should we actually be in free agency? We have right now, it came out to like $64 million after the Gary Gilliam release, right? They said it was reported like 5.5 million, but there was some stipulations and something else that happened. And so when it was all said and done, it was like 4.6 million is what we were getting back or something like that. So we're right around 65 million right now. We cut Pierre Garçon. I think I read that was going to be 2 million. So we really should be somewhere around 66 million in cap space. I mean, that's not official. I don't have over the cap up right now looking at it, but we're around 66 million. How aggressive do we need to be with that money bringing in free agencies?
Very aggressive. Yeah.
Okay. What about DeForest Buckner? Should we sign him to a contract earlier?
Very aggressive, but smart. You know what I mean by that?
Go ahead.
Official on over the cap right now is like it's 65 mil.
Okay.
Officially. Like, I want us to be aggressive and get players, but not like aggressive and go after guys like Trey Flowers. Get players that are gonna like help this team a lot, but then know that you have players that need to be signed. It's like not just like left, right, center. We're gonna sign Earl Thomas, Trey Flowers, C.J. Mosley, Anthony Barr, Bradley Roby, Ronald Darby. Like, not that, but like.
I say we bring in as good of a pass rusher as we can. We do that. Then we bring in, like I said, the average talent at cornerback. We want NFL players. We want average NFL players that can play on any football team. Maybe they're not starters on all 32 teams. Maybe they're starters on 22 teams instead of the other 10 elite cornerbacks out there, whatever it may be. Bring in guys that can create competition. Last year, there was not competition. Witherspoon knew he was the starting cornerback. He needs that competition. He needs somebody pushing him for that starting position. That is how I feel about it. So pass rush, bring in some decent cornerbacks, then bring in a safety, whatever it may be. I kind of like the same approach. Earl Thomas would be nice. I'm all about it. If we get Earl Thomas, I'm perfectly fine with it. But if we just go out and get some nice safety talent out there that doesn't have to be an Earl Thomas type player. I mean, we want it to be a type player like Earl Thomas that plays a kind of same type of scheme, but not that caliber, potentially. So that's how I see it. I say we take as good of a pass rusher as we can get, and then we bring in talent that may not be the starter for 3 years, but can create that competition for 2 years. While we have our guys, we don't need another young developmental cornerback. We have those guys. We already have them on the roster. And so now we need people that can actually start if those guys don't pan out.
Yeah, this is a little bit off topic, but I kind of have to say it. Unless we get to the 3rd or 4th round and a guy named Rock Ya-Sin is in the draft, I want to see him drafted because of his name.
What is it?
Rock Ya-Sin.
Okay. What position does he play?
Corner.
Okay, I'm down with that. Yeah, there's some pretty good corners, I think, in this draft, and we'll get into that.
It's a pretty good corner class. I mean, he's actually pretty talented, but I mean, do I actually want to see him drafted? I don't know, but because of the name, that name's amazing. If Greedy Williams was a free safety, that would be a good name too. I mean, it's good for a corner. Greedy, always wanting the ball. Greedy Williams.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, so I think that covers a lot of our defense right there. We've talked about the positions that we think are important, the order that we really want them, kind of how aggressive we want to be in free agency. We want to definitely make sure that we keep Buckner around, doing that kind of stuff. And I think that we're going to. And a lot of this is going to be free agency is going to determine the draft. What positions we bring into this team during free agency is going to determine what we draft. And really, I don't know if it's going to have a huge effect on the first round if we stay at number 2. As far as what we bring in free agency, I think if we stay at number 2, we're going to take the best talent available at the defensive line position. I really don't see us going to any other position. Now, if we trade back, that changes things.
I don't think when it comes to draft. Sorry, I just cut you off. I know.
No, you're fine.
When it comes to draft, I don't think with what we need, I don't think there's anybody worth drafting that's not defensive line at number 2. For us.
Well, yeah, I mean, for us, I think that's the position, right?
Yeah, it's a D-line.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, and we'll get into that a little bit. I'm going to be happy if we take a defensive pass rusher at number 2. I'm also going to be happy if we trade back and get a couple more picks because, guys, we need talent. We need more than just 1 or 2 pieces. We need 3, 4, 5 pieces on the defense to make this team a good team.
I was reading this article, though, that was kind of hinting towards not trading back. It was Kyle Shanahan. It's Kyle Shanahan and the rest of the staff is what it was down as. And it's talking about how we're going for quality picks, not quantity picks.
Yeah, but if you have, let's say, a pick number 6 overall and then a number, I don't know, 20 pick or whatever, wherever we trade, all in the first round, do you think you can get 2 quality players for that?
Probably.
Right. Yeah, I mean, who did we want last year at they got taken right before us?
They got taken right before us? I think that would go down as Roquan Smith.
It would go down as Roquan Smith. Was he a quality player?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not number 2 overall, right?
No.
Yeah, that's kind of my point is that, what was it? It was something like only a third of all first-round draft picks pan out and actually become successful NFL players at the caliber that they were drafted to be.
Yeah, that number actually, it makes sense.
All right. So the more picks you have in the first round, the greater likelihood you have of having a successful player. Think about that. Of all the scouting departments, all the millions of dollars that all these teams are putting together, 1/3 of those positions become successful. So, I mean, do these scouting departments, are they really that good?
I don't know. Just imagine how hard that would be. And it's also, there's so many variables involved. I mean, a lot of it you come down and you see, like first round draft picks, you see like injury. You'll see injury destroy a player. You
Like
see that.
we were
You see
talking
that.
about Clowney. So
Yeah.
do we really want Clowney? Clowney's a good player, but how often is he on the field?
Not super. I also, I need to stop getting off the draft topic. That's for a
Brandon
different day.
Graham. So Brandon Graham, how many times does he line up offsides in a game?
Quite a few.
Ah, right.
Okay, here's one for you. How many times does, oh, I guess that'd only be one, but how many times does D Ford blew a Super Bowl chance for the Chiefs?
I don't know. How many?
That would be a one, but
Oh, yeah.
that's funny. He's also a free agent. But
Yeah, D Ford. Yeah, that was pretty egregious.
lightens up off. Man,
Yeah, that was D Ford that did that. And he did it again in the Pro Bowl. Did you see that?
I did.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it was D
starting
Ford. It
to get
wasn't
a little
Brandon
lines
Graham. It was
right
D
there,
Ford that
mister.
did the line up offsides.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I remember sitting there rooting for the Chiefs at my grandma's house, watching the game, rooting for the Chiefs, see the interception, jump out of my chair excited, just because I didn't want to see the Patriots in another Super Bowl. And then I saw the yellow flag, and I was like, no, no, no. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's the end of the game.
Yeah, if you don't line up outsides, your team goes to Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the end of the game. I just can't believe that they did that.
Yeah. Okay, something that I kind of missed it myself. But when it comes to how aggressive we're going to be, what are you thinking there? Because kind of a big one that'll come with another day. But what if we ended up like figuring something out with AB? That's going to change a lot.
With Antonio Brown, as far as how aggressive we should be with that.
Mm-hmm. Because that's a lot of cap money. A lot of money.
It's not that much cap money, because of the way the contract is structured. If we trade for AB, anybody that trades for AB, it's like 12 million this year, 11 million next year that they'll have to pay out of pocket for AB.
Holy crap. The source I was looking at was way off.
Well, it's all dependent on how it all works out, but the Steelers are going to have to pay some of that money. So the trade offer for the team that gets AB, it isn't going to be as severe as you might think it would be because of the signing bonus and the way it was all structured. So you're not going to end up paying the, what is it, 21 million he's due this year.
Yeah.
And it's right around there. It's around 21 million. And then the like 19 million or whatever as the years progress. It gets more and more, I think, as the years progress that you are going to pay, but it isn't as much as you might think. I was looking at that breakdown, and we'll have to do an actual podcast where we research it because I can't remember how the details works, but there's also the trade deadline and how that plays off with AB. But I mean, as far as I'm concerned, and get him. I mean, let's bring in Trey Flowers. Let's bring in Graham. Whatever we need to do, bring in one or two of those guys, put them on the outside, trade for AB, trade our second overall. And I don't think you're going to have to trade the second overall with what's going on. I think that his trade value has really jumped down. I mean, if you have to trade a second or third round pick and get AB and pay a bunch of money, man, do it. Absolutely.
Looking from the outside in, I'm not for sure. I'm not for sure Lynch is going to want to give. I mean, I couldn't give the exact numbers, but I was seeing stuff like 4s and 6s going around, like 4th round draft picks, 6th round draft picks.
Do you don't think we'd be willing to give that up?
No, I don't know, because with Lynch, with what he's trying to do in that locker room, is AB going to be a nuisance in the locker room?
Yeah.
I mean, the domestic violence thing that went on, he got a speeding ticket and he was going like 100 some.
Yeah, and then all the pressure he's had.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all the like Twitter stuff, and yeah, I mean, I get it.
Does Lynch want that in his locker room?
Yeah, it's a hard sell, right? I mean,
So that's just questioning for me. Is he going to want to give up that draft capital for a guy that, I mean, who knows? Maybe it's terrible locker room.
I say do it. I say shoot for the stars. Let's get the talent. I mean, if I could pick though, I would rather take Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah, I'd like to see OBJ. I'd rather see OBJ too. I
He's
mean,
trouble too. I mean, I get it. He's a drama queen for sure. I mean,
he's
drama
a
queen.
drama queen,
I
but
don't mean
his
he's a
I know.
diva. Is how they say that, right? He's a
Yeah,
diva.
yeah,
So he's a diva, but and on top of it, he's a diva with a lot of money that doesn't play a full season. I mean, he always missed 2 or 3 games every year. So there's risks with him as well. But I mean, when he is on the field, he is a star.
yeah. And the way I think of it, though, I think of it a little bit different, though. So Antonio Brown, what it sounds like is he has issues off the field at this point. OBJ,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of his issues come down to he has that much passion for the game. Looking from the outside in. I mean, looking from where I am right now, I'm not there in that locker room. I don't know what's going on personally, but from what it looks like, he has that much care for the game.
What it looks like to me is it looks like he's trying to use NBA tactics in the NFL. In the NBA, the players have the control. They say, I want to be traded. I want to be traded to this team, and I want to do that. And the reason why they do that is because if they say, I want to play for this team, then other teams won't trade very much capital because they know that they're just going to move on to that team later. Well, the NFL does not work that way. You do not have that type of control. So that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to control, my opinion, of course, Paul McGatchy's opinion, is that AB is trying to do an NBA type turnaround in the NFL for free agency, trying to control his way out of the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, unless you're the Pelicans, of course.
Yeah, but I mean that's typically how they work, right? Yeah, the
Yeah, I
Pelicans.
know. Unless you're the
I love
Pelicans and
that.
you're just like, no.
Yeah, we went to a concert, Sony and I, up at the stadium. What is a Smoothie King Stadium where they play?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The Pelicans.
Yeah. I was looking at a few things and it was quite funny because they're talking about how the Pelicans, I mean, it was just like myths. I mean, probably not true, but talking about how the Pelicans, so they got all these trade offers and like they said LeBron James, but the Lakers, they offered like Kuzama and a bunch of guys for Anthony Davis.
Yeah, the team. Yeah, the team
Yeah.
except for LeBron.
And then
Mm-hmm.
and then the Pelicans, they put all of that out, like put the entire trade out. And if you look, like that destroyed the team. Like if you look at them, like before and after, they made a good point. Before, like they're all to like pack like a tight family type thing, and now it's like, no,
Yeah, because the players don't feel safe
yeah,
anymore.
they
There's a really
felt
good
like,
book that talks about that and talks about security and how you feel within your organization and how you respond. And it's called Leaders Eat Last. And I was actually just reading that before we started the podcast, and we were talking about that exact thing, or they were talking about that exact thing where, the safer you feel, the team cohesion kind of comes together, and you come together as a team, and you achieve and overcome together. But that moment when you realize that the organization no longer has your best interest in mind, then now you have that fight or flight type response where you have fear and you will no longer give back to the organization the same way that you used to. And that's exactly what happened. Before they were like, you know what? We're in this together. We're going to make it through it together. We're gonna be a team because I know that you are looking out for me. And even if those players knew that they weren't going to be there in 2 or 3 years, they were brought in and told that we believe in you this year. Well, then that trade offer happened, and now they know how that organization truly sees them. So it kind of changed that mindset. Anyways, it sounds like it's time for us to end the podcast. We're talking about NBA, and neither one of us watch the NBA. So
no, I look at it. I'm not a big NBA fan, but I think
I
it's funny to look at it sometimes.
How I watch the NBA is I don't really watch the games. I like to listen to storylines. I use it as like a soap opera.
I just like, yeah, I like the storylines. Just like, yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, I listen to the talk radio shows and then follow some of the players, but I don't really watch the games that much, not until the playoffs.
yeah. Ooh, one thing. Looking into a few things here. Some last second things I see. What do you think about if CJ Mosley, linebacker for the Ravens, were to hit free agency? I mean, looking at it, the Ravens are really making him priority to come back, even if it includes using the franchise on him tag. But what if CJ Mosley were to hit the market? What would you think there? Bring in an elite level guy to pair up with Fred Warner.
I say we don't spend the money at that position. I say we put the money someplace else like the edge rush. We can't afford to bring in two really good players. Now there isn't honestly I haven't thought about it that much. I would be more than happy to bring him in. There really is an elite level edge rush talent out there, but we have to be careful where we spend the money. So I think that before we do it, we really have to be deliberate and we have to understand what Mosley brings to the team, how it's going to affect it. So when you look at NFL teams on defense, you'll see how teams are built from the inside out or outside in. And I really honestly believe that in today's NFL, with the rules the way they are, you have to build from the outside in. And that's you have to take care of those cornerbacks, the safeties, and then you worry about your linebackers. And I really do believe that. So I would be a little bit hesitant to spend elite level money or top tier money on a inside linebacker when I think that the value and the direction of the game has really transitioned from the inside, plugging up the inside, to preventing the outside. I think that that's really the outside threats. I think that's kind of my answer.
Yeah, yeah. I I see I see your point there. Like that's a very valid point. I just if CJ Mosley were to go to free agency, I'd like to see us at least put offers for him, try to get him.
Yeah.
I mean, especially looking into it.
I mean, if we can get him for the right price, I say bring him in. For sure. We definitely need more linebacker depth. I mean, that is a clear need
Yeah,
for us.
he would be a clear cut number one linebacker on the team at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. Well, that's all I got.
Yep, man, that's all I got. I love you, Wyatt.
Love you, Dad.